Reddit by Reddit recap. Surgeons of Reddit. What's the weirdest object you've had to remove from someone's butt? I've seen a small size Fanta orange soda can get pulled straight out of a man's rectum. Did you drink it? From looking at the medical Reddits, I have learned that every type of object known to man has been placed inside of someone's anus somewhere at least once. We progress from sticking everything we see into our mouths as kids to sticking everything in our ass as adults apparently. Edit. Math on the brain. Every type of object known to man has been placed inside of someone's anus somewhere at least once. Who wants to moderate r/rule 35? I'm not a doctor, but my cousin is a colorectal surgeon. She's dealt with at least 2 people who've put light bulbs in their butts. Out of all the household items you could think of, why would a light bulb seem like a fine idea? Edit. If I see another bright idea comment, I'm going to shove a light bulb up my own ass. Years ago my nurse wife told me a man had an apple removed from his butt, but I never understood how this could be possible. I often think about this but have never asked her for more details. I'll ask her over the table at Christmas dinner tonight. Oh, you can safely get things bigger than an apple in an anus. Your rectum is pretty stretchy if you go slow. Our nurse. I've seen baseballs, loads of dildos, cans of soda, vegetables. There should be a public service announcement about using dildos in the bum. It needs to have balls or some sort of base so it doesn't get lost up there. Women's vaginal dildos don't need them, as there is only so far it will go. A doctor I worked with once told a man, "It's okay if you want to put things in your rectum. You just have to use the right things. Without a base. Without a trace." MD. But not a surgeon. On my surgery we had to remove a mini Nerf football from someone's butt. He kept apologizing and saying he wasn't gay. Later, the attending surgeon told us that it's always the straight guys coming in with stuff up their butts and they always try explaining that they aren't gay. I always love when they come up with a convoluted story about how the FB got there. One guy told me with a straight face that he was getting inside his car naked and he forgot there was an avocado on the seat. Son of a doctor here. My dad removed an entire peeled sweet potato from someone's colon once. He swore that he had just slipped and fell on it. Maybe he was just cooking while naked. He peeled the potato, put it on the floor so he can get something from the fridge, and whoops, just slips and falls right on the potato. Enormous silicone butt plug which broke off at its base inside the patient. It was shaped like a soft cone on a stalk, with the base at the bottom. Had to remove it in pieces. Also, an Orangina bottle 2 years before this butt plug. Would you have grounds for compensation suing if a sex toy broke like that? I'm not gonna buy a butt plug, rip the base off and pop it up me bum. But I do wonder. I'm imagining this happening between a couple, and the first moments and facial expressions of the plugger and the pluggy. The latter staring at the plugless base in their hand. Not the butt. Close to it. My sister worked in a urology clinic and has some very crazy stories ranging from at-home sex change procedures to this case in particular. She had to remove almost 200 BBs from a guy's bladder via his urethra one by one, as the guy had a fetish of shoving things down his urethra. Looks like his BB gun was pump action. I'm a vet. Dog had eaten a whole roll of poop bags, the plastic baggies people use to clean up after their pets on walks. They spiraled in his gut and spread from stomach to colon. His owners realized what had happened when he started pooping out bags and brought him in through ER. My co-worker went in to cut him, and the scene she described was hilarious. He would intermittently strain a little and poop out a little section of bags. Someone would tear them off, and he'd be okay for a bit, then poop out some more, like he was dispensing them for himself. He did great after surgery. He received a patient with horrible pain that felt like constipation. He couldn't poop and laxatives weren't helping. We soon found out that the blockage wasn't just constipation. It was a string of beads several meters long that had become tangled into an ugly ball inside. I had to snip it apart and carefully pull pieces of it out. When most of it was out, his a-hole became a rocket engine with diarrhea as the propellant. Please doc, you gotta help me. Something's wrong with me, but I'm sure the dozen of anal beads I crammed up my ass has nothing to do with it. Not a surgeon, but wowie wowie. Do I know a lot of cases involving falling on things and other such excuses? Here are just some of the things I know. A Buzz Lightyear action figure. A Barbie doll. Plaster of Paris. They wanted a mold of his colon. Instead, it had to be cut open as it was glued shut by the plaster. Glasses, the sight kind. Jewelry, mostly necklaces. A cucumber witch. After proclaiming he fell over in the garden naked and landed on his cucumber patch. Stodday Learned had the Tesco wrapper on IT. A light bulb. Finally, on a rather dark note, if you're a fool who slips something up their black hole, 'cause the bus sucks things in disturbingly well, they can't retrieve. Please, for the love of God, go to your doctor. People have died due to toxic shock due to this shit. A guy here died of it in 2 weeks due to having a dildo stuck up there and never went to his docs. Your pride can recover, but you can't recover from death. Back when I was an ER tech, we had this guy come in with a full-size bottle of VO5 shampoo up his butt. Of course he said he fell on it in the shower. You could clearly see it on the x-ray. It was pretty spectacular. The best part was he knew exactly what needed to be done to get it out. Suggesting that this wasn't the first time, he asked for conscious sedation and for someone to pull it out. Well, the ED doctor tried that. Then tried to manually get it out with forceps. And was essentially elbow deep in this dude, but couldn't get it. He had to go to the operating room to get it taken out. I bumped into the surgeon a few days later and asked him how it went. He joked to me that after we knocked him out, I grabbed a plunger out of the bathroom and got it out that way. But then told me all he had to do was stick some suction up there till he felt it connect. And then slowly pulled it out. According to the surgeon, this guy never presented any sort of identification or insurance card. And demanded to pay his entire bill before he left. Usually takes some time for bills to get finalized. He paid it completely in cash. And then left via a taxi. Bloody hell. I feel like if you're that much of a pro you could attach a string to it or something in case it happens again, haha. Girl I know had suspected cervical cancer. Saw 2 different doctors before a specialist examined her surrounded by trainee doctors. Grabbed and pulled on what everyone thought was an inflamed, infected, tumorous cervix. It was a love egg. It had been in there for 3 months. 3 months. Holy duck. Not a surgeon. But as a former paramedic I brought them lots of business and feel qualified to chime in. I brought a guy to the hospital with severe abdominal pain and rectal bleeding. The dispatch nature was accidental injury. Not life-threatening per patient. The chief complaint was I put something in my butt and can't get it out. Patient refused to elaborate on something. Delivered patient to the ED and was filling out my run report when the charge nurse came into the EMS room and said, "Come here. You have to see this." I followed her to the little x-ray alcove next to his room as a surgical orderly was wheeling him out of the room along with a nurse and the ED attending. The charge nurse flipped on the light board. Yes. I'm going old enough, x-rays used to be film based. And I stared in confusion for a few seconds. I could make out the pelvis. Both femurs. Spine. etc. but there were other hard objects shown. She pulled down the first x-ray and put up the second. Which is when I made out a small animal skull and I realized the other objects were bones as well. I looked over to the nurse and started, "Is that a rat?" She finished. "He survived a discharge and is presumably still out there." My partner and I never did determine the method of administration, but I'm picturing one of those habit rail plastic tube cage setup things. Out of everything on this thread, this is the most what in the unholy ducking shit response. I worked in the ER. We had a guy come in with a 6 battery maglite stuck up Main Street. The funny part is that it was inserted bulb out and it was turned on. So we laid him down prone and the doc spread his cheeks. The room lit up like he just cracked open Marcellus Wallace's briefcase. I suppose the light does shine down there. Not a surgeon, but a former anesthesia technician while in the army. I had a few interesting cases come through. Top 5. Not in order. Light bulb. Not like a lamp light bulb, but one of those LED lightsaber bulbs that you see air traffic controller people using. 24-inch double-ended ribbed black dildo. That was a guy who had it stuck there. Soda can. Ken doll. This was actually removed from a woman's vagina. Half a baguette. Not a ducking clue how that happened honestly. I've thought about it a lot and just never could figure it out. Not a ducking clue how that happened. Not chewing. Be more interested in what non-medical people have had to help people remove from their butts. My cat swallowed dental floss and I had to pull it out of her ass. I'm not a medical professional. Just a grossed out lady with a new lidded trash bin. Once had a flatmate who was a nurse. She had a patient who came in complaining of stomach pains, which was caused by the cucumber he'd shoved up his butt a couple of days earlier. Apparently the smell caused by pickling a cucumber in your colon is extremely nasty. Forbidden as pickle. Not me but a good friend I have known since 6th grade who is an emergency room DR. Straight couple in their early 20s and they were using a vibrator on her. They switch. He said it was his first time, and they had lube everywhere and the slim 6-inch vibrator disappeared all the way up in him while it was still on. They waited and tried to get it out on their own and finally went into the ER. They were going to wait till the batteries died but it was getting late. My buddy tried to get it out but couldn't get it. He told the guy they might have to do surgery to get it. The guy asks my buddy if he has to go and can he call his mom and tell her. My buddy laughs and says you are 22 and you get to call your mom to tell her you have a buzzing vibrator in your ass that might be perforating your colon. Then my buddy remembers a guy he went to medical school who works in the same hospital. He has freaky long thin fingers like ET that might work. The other DI gloves up and gets the vibrator still buzzing out of him. Just for your information, it is really easy for this to happen, so limit the lube on your hands. Your colon gets like a suction on it and things go in easy like what happened to these guys. Edited subbed vibrator where dildo was. The trick is having something with a base. Always have a nice wide base on anything inserted anally. Best comment of the day. I clicked on this just to hear other stories, but didn't expect to hear several like the one I witnessed. When I was a technician and worked in a hospital, I assisted in a surgery where a man had shoved many light bulbs up his butt. The sheer amount and the pressure from his colon broke all of the bulbs, regular bulbs, mind you, not Christmas tree bulbs, and they were all shattered into various sized pieces. The man panicked and their bits of wire and aluminum being removed. He had gotten some of the aluminum pieces out, but the final number of bulbs remains a mystery. I remember there were 3 chief surgeons as well as about half a dozen others including myself working on him, and there were so many pieces of glass that they had to unwind his entire colon to get every last bit of glass. Eventually I had to go home as it was the end of my shift. And now hearing these stories, what is it with light bulbs?